And of course, a crisis is a bad thing. It's a painful thing, very unpleasant thing. But it's a great learning opportunity. So that's why we selected this title, that never waste a good crisis. It's a great learning opportunity. You can learn a lot. You can see on this slide what happened with one of the leading companies of this industry, Cisco. I think that it is a very well-known name for everybody. They were accustomed to a growth of more than 10% every quarter. Not every year, but every quarter. The growth for them was very fast, but suddenly growth disappeared at the beginning of 2001. And in the next quarter, they simply lost 30% of their revenue. It is like having a shop somewhere in the Andrássy Street, and you open the door every morning, and the customers are waiting for you. But on a beautiful day, you open the door in the morning, and nobody is there. Nobody is waiting yet. They simply lost 30% of the revenue in a quarter. Not in a year, in a quarter, within 3 months. You can see on the right side what happened with their stock price. They lost 80% of their market value. And it was, and it is, the flagship company of the IT industry. They lost 80% of their market value. And it was a very important lesson for them. And one of the lessons they learned, and that's why we selected this title to summarize some lessons, is here. John Chambers is the CEO of this company, and he said that in a crisis, cash is king. Cash is king, queen, and the royal family. In a crisis, cash is the most important thing. And you have to understand that you can survive a crisis with an accounting loss, but you cannot survive it without cash. Yes? Because if you do not have cash, it means that at the end of the month, you cannot pay your electricity bill. You cannot pay your suppliers. You cannot pay the salary of your employees. Yes, and it means that you will go bankrupt. So it was a very important lesson for them that it is the right time to open the books about finances and accounting and take care of your cash. A very important lesson, not only for Cisco, but for everybody. What did my boss at this IT company learn? I mentioned to you that for a few years I left academia and went to an IT company. At that time, it was the second biggest IT services company in Hungary. Before the crisis, the company, this IT services company, was very much product-oriented. The front line of the company, the sales organization, and the production units, the developers, the programmers, were organized by products. They had units based on products. And customers bought goods, products and services from these units, and all these salespeople visited them one by one. Yes? They had to communicate with all of them, and sometimes these salespeople started to compete with each other because the budget of the customer was limited as well. What was the consequence? The consequence was that the customers got confused and did not like this system. So my boss, the CEO of this company, decided to change the organizational system of the company this way. The new front line was organized by customers, customer segments. Yes? And they introduced a key account management system. And these key account managers, the only contact for the customers, they had to communicate only with one person. And this person collected for them everything. All the goods, all the computers, all the software, all the services they needed, from the back office units organized by competencies. And at the same time, my boss turned the company's organizational chart upside down. And it was a big surprise, not only for customers, but for the employees as well, because in a typical organization, on a typical organizational chart, the CEO is somewhere at the top. And that's why everybody would like to be a CEO sooner or later, especially MBA students, because the CEO is somewhere at the top. But he turned the organizational chart upside down, and he said that the most important people in the company are in the front line of the company. Those persons who communicate, who fight every day with the customers. Sales guys, project managers, people who work with the customers directly. And everybody else's job is to support this activity. So he recognized that he's in a service position. He's in a service position, and not the frontline people work for them, but he has to work for the front line. Yes. So we turned the organizational chart upside down, yes, put the organizational chart, a new one, on the website of the company, and started to communicate the meaning of it to the customers. And they liked this system very much, but at the beginning, it was not easy to understand for them, and it was not easy to understand for the employees of the company. So it was a very interesting lesson related maybe to organizational behavior and change management and how to change the culture of an organization. Fortunately, the crisis after 2 years was over. So the IT crisis in 2000, 2001, and 2002 was over, and companies started to spend on telecom goods and IT services again. And the profitability of the industry started to grow. So things returned to normal. But we had to understand that there are long-term changes as well. And we had to learn that we live in a new environment. For example, in this corner of this chart, you can see that broadband penetration started to grow very fast. As people started to use broadband contacts, internet contacts, and it was the beginning of how the internet and how the broadband revolution started to disrupt whole industry, the media industry, the music industry, the press, books, and so on, and so on, and so on. And you can see on the right side how the price for long distance telecom calls fall. And it happened very, very fast. It was a price reduction of 80, 90%. And it was a radical change, and it was a long-term change. And some newcomers, some new companies managed to grab the opportunity. And new industries and new companies grow based on this trend. For example, I think that the best example for this is maybe the Indian IT services industry. One of the flagship companies of this industry is Infosys. Do you know how many employees work at Infosys? Have you ever heard about them? It's one of the biggest IT services company in India. There is Wipro, there is Tata, they are here in Budapest, and maybe the third one is Infosys. They had now, yes?
One of the biggest also has done something similar to what your CEO did at that time.
Yeah.
They started out from digital outsourcing media, yet their consulting basically created offshore.
Yeah. They started with body shopping, and now they are a big service provider. And now they would like to build this tower. Because of the crisis, they canceled it, but they would like to build it. And you can see on this chart that before 2000, they were not on the radar screen. They suffered in the crisis year, but they started to grow again. And now they have about 100,000 employees. 100,000 employees in IT services. Do you know, any idea, how many people work in the Hungarian IT industry on the supply side? Because there are some people on the demand side as well, the IT units of companies. How many people work in the whole Hungarian IT industry on the supply side, the IT services side? A little bit more than 50,000. So they are 2 times bigger. These companies, 2 times bigger than the whole Hungarian IT industry. It's a great success, and it was based on this trend. That communication was very cheap, and it was possible to take programming activities and call center activities to India. So it was a long-term trend. The whole crisis, the crisis of the IT industry made it only faster.